All right, my name is David Smith. I'm going to do a quick video about building a WatchKit app. This is something that I'm just entirely fresh, it's entirely new that I'm trying out. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I thought it'd be an interesting way for me to both to learn and get better at learning WatchKit, as well as to share that experience with you. My intention for this is for it to be fairly unedited, a little bit rough. This is not some fancy tutorial that would actually be worth paying money for, so that's why I'm putting it up on YouTube for free. If you're coming at this from knowing about me from things like Developing Perspective, the podcast I do, I'm going to be along the same lines, and I'm trying to keep it short, probably about 15 minutes, trying to tackle some kind of programming job, something that I can do in about that 15 minutes. Hopefully that'll still be useful and interesting. But enough about me, let's get to coding. Okay, so what I'm going to do, what I thought would be an interesting kind of test project, is to build just a very simple WatchKit app. I was trying to think of the simplest thing that I could possibly do to get started. So what I'm just going to do is go into Xcode and make a single view application. Nothing fancy. So will be, a video example. It doesn't really matter. And throw that on my desktop. Okay, so the purpose of what I'm going to do is trying to think of something that would be a very concrete, simple, something concrete that I could build in about 15 minutes that would still show what a lot of the process of building a WatchKit app is like. I built a few WatchKit apps so far in the couple of weeks that it's been out. And so I'm going to go sort of from start to finish. You just saw me initialize my new project, and I'm going to kind of go from there. So once you have a project, you want to add a target to it. So you'll just click on the project file, hit the plus here, and say, I want to add a new WatchKit app, or Watch app. This is all boilerplate stuff. I'm just going to not add a notification or a glance for the purposes of what I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to do a basic Watch app. The purpose of this is just to show you that's, this is how you put something onto the watch. And at this point, we now have these two extra groups in our Xcode project right over here. One is the extension, which is the actual extension that runs the code that powers your app, and the other one is basically just a storyboard file and some assets, which is what Xcode calls the watch example, the watch app. This is the storyboard that'll actually drive your watch app, and so that's where we're going to be putting in a lot of our logic. Our display. The logic will go in the interface controller. And so now we actually have, believe it or not, a WatchKit app. And so if I do build and run, selecting the watch app target, you'll see something come up in the simulator when it comes up over here. And it's not very exciting, obviously, because it's just black. But I can prove that it is actually an app if I just come in here, make it purple, and hit build and run. Now we should have a purple screen on our simulator. Yay! So we have a watch app. Obviously this is not fancy, but this is what functionally all we need to do. We have something that we can now start putting up on the app. The super fun app that I thought would be fun I can build in like 2 seconds is I'm going to just take the Instagram public popular feed, which is the it's some arbitrary list of 50 images that are popular right now on Instagram, and I'm just going to display that onto the screen with a button that says next and previous, and let you cycle through them, and you could look at them on your watch. The app's not fancy, the app's not really particularly useful, but it is something that I think is, it's worthy enough of building it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm here in my storyboard. I'll click on the image, I'll click here, and I'll drag in an image. And so this is where we're actually going to show our picture. And then the interesting thing in WatchKit is all of your layout is done in kind of this flow layout. It's a little bit tricky to wrap your head around if you're coming from iOS, where you spend a lot of time thinking in terms of frames. In WatchKit, everything is essentially just one big bag that you throw things into, and they kind of layer sort of. There's like a gravity towards the top left corner, and the things will just sort of lay themselves out towards that. So when I throw an image in, by default, it'll just kind of go up towards the top left, and I'll have to tell it to do things otherwise. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to have its width be relative to the container, and that's going to be 1-to-1. And then the height is just going to say size to fit container. I think that should work. I might need to set it fixed, but I think that should work just fine. And so now I have an image. So now I have a place that I could throw that picture. once I get it. And the actual getting it part isn't the interesting part. The actual interesting part is building an app. And so what I'm going to do then now is go into the assistant editor, which will bring up here, hide all these. So in the assistant editor, you can now see this is the interface controller, which is the automatic complement to the storyboard. And here, I'm just going to add an outlet to the image. So this is, our Instagram image. And I'm just going to connect that up. So now, inside of my interface controller, which is the thing in WatchKit that actually runs on your phone and does the projection from your phone up onto the watch. It's the thing that'll actually do all the clever bits. I now have an outlet to that WK interface image where I can actually then show the image that I want to show. And so now I just need an image to show. And so this is where things will, things get a little bit interesting, but not too bad. Instagram has a pretty basic API endpoint that'll just give me this nice big JSON block back. That'll have a data and element within that. It'll have just an array of these things, and inside of it, eventually we'll get down to something like this. And these are just images. These are just things coming off of Instagram. I have no idea. Hopefully, nothing too dodgy shows up here, but they're just pictures from the public feed on Instagram that I'm going to show. And so I need an image to show. And so to start with, I'm just going to grab one of these, and that was what I was just showing you there. Was just something that I previously just pulled down the API once I got all the API keys and stuff set up, which is a bit outside the scope of what I'm going to do. So first I'm just going to get that image. And so what I need is to get a UI image. So let me make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to grab this image. And so what I'll do to start with, I'm just going to put that URL for that picture that I just copied out of the API. I'm going to take that URL. I'm going to turn it into an NS data. Which is, never do this. This is terrible. Do as I say, not as I do. But for the purposes of what I'm doing, this will be fine. So I can just data with contents of URL with string, URL. Okay. So now I just made take that random picture on Instagram, turn it into a data, and now I can make an image from it, which is, hooray. Image with data. And so now I have an image. And so now what I can do is take that image. And the thing that you have to get used to with WatchKit is because these objects are actually running, like that interface image file is actually running on the watch. It's not local. You have to get out of the habit of setting properties in the way that you would normally, because it's not actually a local object. It's kind of this weird proxy object that Apple's doing awesome magic with to make happen. And so you come here and use, the Instagram image. And so then you can just set image, UI image. Great. And in theory, if everything worked up correctly, it should now just run. And if I now look in my simulator, here's that picture. Apparently it's a picture of a girl. And that's pretty cool. So this would now be running on the watch every time you launch this app, you would see this picture. But obviously that's not super cool. That's just kind of vaguely cool. And so what I need to do, I think, is I'm going to make it have the ability to show multiple images. And to do that, I'm going to need to actually pull from the API and parse this. Now, this is something that you wouldn't actually want to do where I'm doing it in the interface controller. This is something you're probably going to want to do inside of some data management logic that probably is connected to your actual main app on the phone. I think there's going to be a lot of trying to send push notifications, silent push notifications and things to bring that data so it's always ready and available. But, for the purposes of an example, what I'm showing you here, that should probably work. And so this is just the endpoint that you hit with Instagram. Let me grab this. All right, so now let me pull that down. And so what I'm just going to do is grab a string. Or actually, I guess I can just do a data with that too. Data with contents of URL endpoint. And so now I have that as an NS data. And now what I can do is do the fun stuff that you get kind of with JSON parsing. So like, what is called this object is NSJSON serialization. What is it? Objects, JSON objects with data. Great. Data. Fragments, and I'm being terrible and not actually checking my error because this is a terrible example. All right, so now I have this big object back, and let me just log that to make sure everything's working. Dun, dun, dun. Get rid of this and hit run. And so now I should get this gigantic blob of JSON back. Yay. So now it looks like I need to go data, and then it'll get me an array of pictures. So cool. So let me add a property here, and it's array of images. So now I'll have an array of images that I can look at. And so I just need to pull those out of my parsed object. And so this would be for in. So these are NS dictionaries. In, and this is in object. I think I can subscript this data. And so now, if I come in here and just quickly print this out, just to make sure it's all hooked up right, I should get a series of NS data is printed out in order. Yay! And for the inside of here, what I'm most interested in is not the comments, but the images. So it looks like it goes images, low resolution, URL is probably what I want. And so let's grab that out. And a string image URL is image data. Nope, that's not what I want to do. There we go. Images. Low resolution. And obviously I would be, if I was actually building this in real life, I would have all kinds of error checking and things that I would actually be doing to be sure that I'm not, putting trash data everywhere. But this is fine. The purpose of what I'm doing today is not that. So now if I come and build and run, in here I should just now get a nice big list of URLs. Which is really hard to read, but is actually what's happening. Like these are now image URLs that I can work with. Great. So now I have a whole collection of those. Let me throw them into an array. So let me just make a mutable array. Images is a mutable array. Hooray. And I'll do that same horrible trick that I was doing before, where I make an NS data. Data with contents of URL, NS URL with string, image URL. Great. Sorry about that. Okay, image is the image. My image with contents of data. Yay. And then I can just add them into that array that I built. So now I can say images, add object, image. And now I can assign that at the end of all that. I can put it into my images array. So actually, let me just do this. Just to avoid the conflict. Okay. Okay, so now I have a collection. Yeah, that's right. And so now I have a collection of UI images inside of an array that I can now start to display. And to start with, let's just check it's working. So I can say self.instagram image, set image, self.instagram images, any object or first object. That'll work. And when I run this, I should now have whatever that first image coming off of that API endpoint displayed. Yay, so it's some people with some flowers. Yay. Okay, this is kind of cool, but of course I can't, it's just showing one picture. Wouldn't it be kind of cool if I could show more than one picture? Actually, let me just switch to the slightly larger Apple Watch simulator so it's a little easier to see on the video. So it's running. Oh, look, some scary people. Hooray. Okay, so what I need to do now is go back to my storyboard. There we go. Because we don't have any buttons. We just have this picture that's displaying there. And I'm actually, I think, going to make its size fixed. So I'm going to make it like 250 fixed height by 250. Oh, apparently 250 is. Oh, I'm thinking in pixels, not points. And then I'm just going to center it every which way. Oh no, actually vertically. Put it on the top. And height, actually, it looks like I need to do 100 by 100. You know, pay no attention to the man behind that mask. But now what I can do is throw a button in. And I put this button down here, and this button will just say next. And so this is a button that's going to just cycle through these images for us. You know, great. I'm going to jump over to the assistant editor again. Wow, that is really big. But that's fine, because all I'm going to do is grab that button and make an outlet for it. So this is the next button. I'm not really sure I actually need the outlet. Really what I need is the action. So it's, you know, next button pressed. And so this is where I will update the actual logic to display the image. And being someone who wants to be fairly dry, I will just put it here and say load image. And I need to add a property, an integer that's just going to be our index, so we can keep track of things. And even though it should be 0, I'll just start off by saying set the index to 0. And okay, so now we should be in business. And so now rather than setting the image down in my init with context method, which is not really a great place, I'm going to have this nice little method here called load image that's going to grab the image. So the UI image is self.Instagram images object at index self.index. And so this will just, whatever that index value is set to, it'll grab an image out, and then it will set that image for my, in the actual view over here. I just pointed to the screen. You can't see the screen. Well, you can, but you can't see my finger in the screen. Anyway, and so anytime we push the button, all we'll do is say index or self.index plus plus. If self.index is greater than or equal to self.Instagram images count, we'll wrap it around. And of course, there are cleaner ways to do that, but that'll work. And then we just say self load image. All right. And then we're just going to say the same thing, self.load image down at the bottom here. So now, let's grab this. So now, here's a picture. And every time I hit next, I'm going to get the next picture in that public Instagram feed. And that's probably where I'm going to be wrapping it up for today. Hopefully that was interesting. Like I said, this is just a random idea I had this morning that I was like, I wonder what would be interesting, if it would be interesting or useful for how, essentially let people look over my shoulder as I build something on WatchKit. And this is the result. I don't know if this is good. Let me know. As always, in my podcast, I always say if you have questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, let me know on Twitter. I'm _David Smith there, or you can email me, david@developingperspective.com. But this is kind of something that I'm thinking of doing a bit more, where I record these kind of rough, not great screenshots, screencasts of showing building stuff and letting me kind of talk through. And I know it's going to be a little bit awkward to follow because, it's not structured. I don't have the time and energy to be able to really build proper tutorials. But I'm kind of coming from a place where I spend a lot of time watching video game streamers, people on YouTube or on Twitch or things like that who are just playing, they're just playing video games, and it's enjoyable to watch and it's interesting to learn from that. And I wonder if the same thing could be applied to learning the program. And so what I just did, it's intentionally kind of quick, it's intentionally kind of focused, but hopefully it's also kind of useful because it's showing you how to do something. And I was thinking about trying to describe this, and there's a great series by Natasha the Robot, which I'll have a link to in the notes for this video, where she essentially does walkthroughs in in a blog post of how to build things. And I thought about kind of doing similar things, but it just really started to make my head hurt for how long that would take to make it. It's hard to describe in words something that I can just show you in a picture. And so this is what I'm trying. So let me know if this was at all useful or if it was a complete waste of time. I'm learning, I'm experimenting, and I'll probably, we'll see how it goes. If the feedback is positive, I will keep making them. If not, I will stop. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, I guess, I don't even know what you do on YouTube.